Ladies and gentlemen, this story actually comes out of my state. And this man that you're looking at lost four family members to COVID in 1 month. 1 month. I mean, that is just insane. But you know what? Last year, in the beginning of coronavirus, there was another family. They lost seven people in one family, and they all died, I think, like within a 2 week period. I mean, it is crazy. It is crazy. And this thing is definitely not going to get better anytime soon. As long as, I would expect it's going to get worse with all the different variants that are around now. It's definitely going to get worse, y'all. So, four of his family members died after getting COVID, and now New Jersey man lives alone. Now, these were four people, all lived in the same household. This came out February 12th, 2021. And the woman that you see in the picture, that was his wife. I mean, crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, this is NewJersey.com. Ed Kimball Jr. isn't sure how the coronavirus first entered his household. He lost four family members. They contracted COVID 19 last year: his wife, younger brother, mother in law, and mother in law's sister, all of whom had serious underlying conditions. Kimball's wife could be picked up at her retail job. Aides who took care of his brother would have carried, they could have carried it inside because, people in the house had medical conditions and they had aides coming in and helping with his brother. And, it just mysteriously, it hit everybody in the family. He got it too, but he survived. But all of the family members under the roof with him, they all died. Mm-mm-mm. It could have come from many different directions. It's invisible. You can't see it. So you don't know where it came from, said Kimball Jr., a volunteer firefighter and truck driver, now 61 and living alone in Riverside, where he shared his, stories about how coronavirus impacted his family. He hopes to push others to take the virus seriously, following social distance guidelines. More than 19,000 New Jerseyans have died after contracting COVID 19 since last spring. Entire families have been hit by the illness, experiencing a rare heartbreak of multiple funerals. Yes, there's been a lot of funerals, and that's why it's been a shortage of flowers in America, because the funerals are just literally taking up all the available flowers. And that right there is a good sign of how bad it is. Nationwide, America got a flower shortage. That's crazy. So people should be aware the virus is out there. People should keep their distance from one another and obey the rules. Everyone says this is what Kimball is saying. Kimball Jr. At one point, Kimball Jr. said all of his relatives were hospitalized together with COVID 19 at Virtua Willingboro Hospital, while he called them on FaceTime, unable to see them in person due to visitor limitations. All I can say is thank God for iPhones. Yeah, I guess he's right. If he didn't have the iPhone, he wouldn't see them at all. It all started in November when Kimball Jr. said his wife, Barbara, was taken to the hospital because she was dehydrated from kidney issues and had chest pains. She was tested for the coronavirus and the results came back positive. He said Barbara had diabetes and was eventually put on a breathing tube. So she must have went on a ventilator. Okay, following 2 months, she bounced between New Jersey hospitals, rehabilitation facilities. Kimball said she died on January 16th from a stroke. Leading up to her death, Kimball Jr. said he would drop off Jersey Mike sandwiches and iced tea at the hospital for her, one of her favorite meals, and he wasn't allowed to go into the room. So they were married 40 years. The two were married for nearly 40 years, meeting as teenagers growing up in Riverside. Barbara was president of the Washington Fire Company Ladies Auxiliary in Delanco and a member of the Riverside Emergency Squad and New Jersey Fire Ladies Auxiliary, among other organizations. She previously worked for NJM Insurance and AAA Insurance. With more recent, she was a cashier also at Walmart in Cinnaminson, New Jersey. Kimball said, all of our lives reflected around the fire company, he said. A lot of times we hung out there at the park in town. Coronavirus contributed to her health problems, caused the death as a stroke. So the stroke was attributed directly from the COVID. During Barbara's 2 months in the hospital, other family members also fell sick. His mother-in-law, Ruth Sharp Allen, was brought to the hospital early in December, developing pneumonia and a cough, tested positive for COVID. She died on December 2nd. Wow. At age 89. 5 days later, Kimball Jr. said his younger brother, John Daniel Kimball, who had been bedridden after losing both legs to diabetes, was being cared for by home health aides. He was taken to the hospital by emergency squad because he needed emergency dialysis. He tested positive for COVID at the hospital, Kimball Jr. said. The virus made recovering more difficult, and he died of a heart attack on January 7th. Like his wife, Kimball said his brother loved helping people. He held multiple positions, I guess, when he could walk. So he worked for the emergency squad too. Less than a week after John, his brother, died, Ruth Allen's sister, Ellen Wolverton, affectionately known as Aunt Eileen, passed away in Willingboro Hospital, Kimball Jr. said. She had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in the fall, he said. She also tested positive for COVID and had a bad cough. She was a member of also the fire department. Okay. Kimball Jr., volunteer Riverside fireman, said he is getting his second dose of the vaccine on Wednesday in Burlington County, along with the rest of his company. I guess the volunteer fire company that he worked for. He wishes the vaccines were widely available sooner so family could have been protected. His relatives died as doses were only beginning to be distributed in New Jersey. So there was a GoFundMe created to help raise money for Ed Kimball Jr. They raised so far $2,200 to help pay medical bills, home expenses, and burial costs. And they said also his niece also started a GoFundMe and raised $5,000. So Kimball Jr. said he's planning a memorial service at Delray Methodist Church, a burial at Lakeview Memorial Park. I know where that is. And Cinnaminson luncheon at the Delanco Fire Station, but no date has been set. They're hoping for May. I mean, this is serious. Like I said, I remember the story of the 7 family members in one household in my state that died. So these things are happening. It's not unusual for you to be in a household where several members may have pre-existing conditions. That's more common than uncommon, and everybody is not in good health. And as you can see, it seems to, just looking at the story, it appears if you're not in good health already, it's almost like COVID comes along and just finish you off. You don't have nothing to fight with. If you're thinking all of the problems that he was saying his family members had, they already had no immune system to even fight COVID. So, wow. And just think, y'all, I have a feeling this is going to become very common in America as these variants start multiplying even more in the country. I mean, we don't even know how many variants are here technically because they don't do any genetic sequencing in America like they should. The only reason why they know they got 4,000 in the UK is because they have done it. Here, they barely do it. So you don't know. It could be way more than 4,000 here right now. You just don't know. They don't test for nothing. But they will get on the news and tell you things are going to be better in the summer. They don't hesitate to do that. But y'all, please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.